And welcome back to part 7, folks. Alrighty, so last time we learned a lot about the new Titan formula from Dr. Young. She seemed like a decent doctor, we saved her life pretty much. And she's went off with Aaron Cash into the Arkham Mansion to get her life's work, as she puts it. Other than that, we have another equipment to our tool belt, the Bat Claw, which we'll see a lot of use in both fighting and the terrain to both, move on to the next sections and pick up a lot of collectibles. But first, let's hear about the Chronicles of the Spirit of Arkham.
The island changed little over the years. Its reputation was in tatters, but I vowed to fix it. As the buildings were rebuilt, I saw the future. A bright, wonderful future.
Alrighty. The Riddler trophy you just saw, across the way, we have no ways of getting so far, as you can tell. You can try gliding over there, but all you'll do is fall before you reach the ledge, and you'll be forced to grapple up. So in combat, the Bat Claw can be used to pull in enemies, suspecting or not, and it pretty much stuns them right away. It's actually very useful not only against regular enemies, but also armed enemies, enemies with knives, and so on. But today, we're coming back to the island surface through the underground, through the sewers. And in my opinion, it's one of the coolest designs when it comes to this game. It's so original, and I'm not saying this sarcastically because there's usually a sewer section in a lot of games, but it's really intricately designed, and I really appreciate that. Alright, more interviews.
You're kidding me, right? That thing's not a man.
Hello, my name is Dr. Gretchen Whistler. Do you understand me?
Yeah, I hear you, bitch. So when's dinner? I'm getting hungry.
Alright, so I guess we've moved on to the interview tapes of Killer Croc. As we'll learn later on in the game, his cell actually resides here, in the underground sewers. I think it's pretty cool. Again, he is just a dude with a skin disease at the end of the day, so keeping him in the sewer is a little bit morbid just because of his nickname, but maybe, I guess, he wanted to stay there on his own accord? I'm not really sure. Anyhow, there's one more collectible to pick up here, and it's just behind this breakable wall, just another Riddler trophy. So yes, since we're in the sewers, as you can tell, there's a lot of narrow hallways and corridors. We won't be seeing any more Predator sections for a little bit of the game, which is a nice change of pace. As I said, the game is spliced up between the Predator and fighting sections, and for the time being, we've moved on to the fisticuffs hand-to-hand combat section, again, at least for another 30 minutes or so of gameplay. Anyhow though, we've reached the main sewer junction.
Hey, this is weird. The payments to Dr. Young's account didn't stop exactly. They were declined. Dr. Young put a block on her account.
Sounds like she had a change of heart. She tried to block the payments. Joker doesn't like it when his partners try to back out.
So he decided to get himself back to Arkham, find his formula, and create the army himself.
Exactly.
Alright, so we're learning more and more about the Titan formula. Dr. Young was supposedly stupid enough to fall for his plans. And yeah, I think it's pretty smart to listen to what Oracle has to say when it comes to story progression.
Well, Jack White. It's a long thread. She's begging to stop the experiment, says it's too dangerous. He's not listening. Let's see. Random threats to her family, a couple of bad jokes, a picture of a dead baby and a threat.
Go on.
He says I'm coming for you. I want what I paid for. And then another joke about wheelchairs. Lovely. And a drawing of some kind of donkey.
No mystery why she's so scared. I'm coming up to the surface. I'll find her.
Alright, so this area of the game is actually very neatly designed because of the fact that you can't use your equipment at all. All the walls and structures around this building, or this section of Arkham actually, are very old. And I mean, I guess you can tell that by design too, but in case you do try to use your equipment, that's what Batman will bring up. I mean, I guess conveniently it does work if you fall off a ledge and then he has to use an emergency bat claw to save himself, to grapple up, you know, the emergency battle or grapple hook. Finally, Jesus Christ, if I could speak, what would I say? But because of that, because we can't use our equipment, this area does have a lot of riddles and trophies. And it's not the first time that we'll be visiting this area, because as if I were a rapper right now, I'd say there's levels to this shit, right? But yes, there are actually real elevator style levels, and we will come back sooner rather than later on the upper echelons of these platforms, and it's in a very cool manner. So yeah, I look forward to that. I actually like this area when most people find it very tedious. Because there's so many collectibles and it's easy to lost in here, there are a couple of jump cuts, as you can tell, but yeah, if you follow along, if you're playing along with me, it should be very easy to track where I actually make cuts. This is the exact same location as we just picked up the trophy. As you pick up that last trophy, all you have to do is press your detective mode button and find the riddle to the entire room, which is another question mark, a hidden question mark located somewhere along the ledges. Again, my least favorite, but I'm also guessing that it's everybody's least favorite type of riddle in the game. It's, again, very inconsistent, very cool design. I mean, it's a neat idea. I would have never thought of something like that when designing a game, but can be slightly tedious again, so what can you do?
Hit patient session 2. Patient name Waylon Jones, aka Killer Croc.
So, is this the part where you try and reason with me? Find out why I did it, Doc.
We're here to help you, Mr. Jones.
You got a cure for me then, Doc? Can you make me normal?
Normal is a poor choice of words. No one's really normal, are they?
Figured as much. So, how about this, Doc? You let me go now, and I won't eat you.
You don't really eat people. It's just an urban myth.
Oh, you think? Keep believing that, Doc.
Alrighty, more about the Killer Croc. He's really terrifying, especially designed this game, right? That's one of the coolest designs when it comes to man turned to monster that I've seen in superhero mythos, right? Comparing Killer Croc from this game, for example, with a very familiar lizard man from Spider-Man is really no contest. He doesn't have that goofy lab coat on. He doesn't have purple pants ripped up like a crappy version of the Hulk. He does have jeans on, now that I think about it, and surprisingly enough they're not really ripped, but who cares? Design is very good, okay? Take my word for it. Anyhow, now that we come back to the surface, looks like Joker's henchmen have somehow taken over the armory of the entire island. And now you have sniper rifles overlooking all the main junctions of the island. So whenever you enter a new section, the overworld map will have henchmen with sniper rifles guarding each guard tower and you have to stealthily sneak around without them noticing you, because sniper rifles, just like regular assault rifles, they deal a ton of damage to you if you are spotted. When you use detective mode, you can actually see all of their lines of sight while aiming with the sniper, so that can be pretty useful when it comes to defeating them or moving around stealthily. And as I said not too long ago, there's more fighting in this video. I try to combo, or try to keep in mind when fighting these enemies while recording, to use as much of my combo abilities as I can, because this is kind of a walkthrough slash guide to the game, more so than just a let's play. But sometimes, you know, my muscle memory takes over and I just want to spam the attack button, especially when I'm in critical hit range. I think it's so fun. Once you get used to combat, I can't, you know, I guess I kinda keep harping on it, but once you get used to the combat, as much as you can, really, for these types of games, you won't want to go back to actual doing, you know, incredibly concise free flow combos. You'll just want to fight the old-fashioned way. And there's nothing wrong with that. I guess you miss out on some experience, but who cares? You know, as long as you get into the habit of actually using combo takedowns on the armed enemies, and those you can't just combo punch, you'll do just fine. Anyhow though, as per usual, visiting the main way gates between big sections of the island, they've been confined by enemies, and again, usually they've strung up some Arkham staff along with it. That said though, we have another level up. These are going by really fast actually, and this time around, in my mind, I wanted to choose between the armor upgrade, the triple batarang upgrade, which we have because we've upgraded to the double batarang last episode, and the combo batarang. But because the batarangs in combat, the combo batarang I just acquired, they stack along with the amount of batarangs you can use at once at the same time. Upgrading to the combo batarang as soon as you've upgraded to the double one works quite well. There's really no point in having the combo batarang if you only can use just one at a time, and when you can use 2 or 3, you know, obviously 3 especially, but when you can use just 2 even, it's very useful in your combos. And I think I show that off a little bit later on. But for now, we have 4 more snipers to take on, and pretty soon you'll see what happens if you get spotted. These 2 riflers, I guess, these snipers, overlooking the Arkham Mansion, are in quite of an inconvenient spot for you because they can really overlook the entire island, and the best strategy I found is try to go through the graveyard, but even still, you might get spotted. And yep, one shot, even with an armor upgrade, takes out about 30% of your HP fully, so if you get spotted and you don't dodge roll in time, or you're not paying attention, you'll be dead on any difficulty. I'm not sure how the bullet damage scales if you're playing on the easiest one, but I'd like to imagine that it's not, you know, it doesn't begin to only itch. I imagine it hurts quite a bit. Anyhow though, if you sneak up on them, if you're lucky enough, they change their line of sight, you can sneak up on them, or you can hang from the ledge that they're standing on and do a ledge takedown. Those are a little bit tricky. I'm sure I will sometime in the playthrough show off a ledge takedown. Again, just like the corner takedown I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, those as well could be a little bit inconsistent, and I don't really like to take risks when it comes to that. So, you know, to each their own. But there's a couple more collectibles there. If you just glide over to the from the Arkham Mansion, you can find a Riddler trophy, and beneath the Botanical Gardens, another Chronicle of Arkham.
New brick, metal and paint covered old wounds. Fresh blood was injected into the body. Bright new minds came, and all swore to uphold our promises. We all knew we were the ones to fix this city, and the city would thank us.
You know, in preparation for this video, before actually commentating on it, I was thinking about the season that this game came out in. And if you guys remember, it was the late 2009. And I don't know, just thinking about those memories, because I got this game in combination with Assassin's Creed 2, which also came out a few months later, or around a month and a half later than Arkham Asylum, if you want to be precise. I just remember that being a great split when it comes to, you know, annual releases. Yeah, good times, good memories. It was also around the time that I first discovered the Let's Playing community on YouTube, late 2009. So that part of my life I remember very fondly, actually. It's, they were good times, to say the least. Other than actually equipping and de-equipping your equipment using the menu, there's quick commands to pretty much every single piece of your equipment that you have, which is something that I haven't mentioned, weirdly enough. But anyhow, you can tell that just by tutorials on screen most of the time. You know, if you're playing on your own, or just following along the video series, that's something you can notice. You get those pop-ups quite often. Okay, so those guards that have been taunting us from the other side of the electrical fence are, they moved all the way back, conveniently again, and you want to make sure that you glide kick the armed one, and once you do that, the rest is pretty easy, because you're gonna automatically disarm him, and then fighting 3 enemies at this point in the game should be second nature, right? Pretty simple. And it's not even a hard puzzle, right? You turn on detective mode, which is pretty much automatically always turned on for this game. The devs really like for you to use it, even though, again, you miss out on all the visual aesthetics. But if you do, you'll have a giant glowing enemy, and then the game says, hey, I know you haven't used this since the first minute of the game or so, but glide kicks are still a thing, right? So glide kick the one that's bright red and you should be fine. This platform actually is on the north end of the room. All you have to do is grapple up. I was kind of confused looking for the collectible, but in the end I found it pretty simple.
My family's killer stood in front of me. Years of therapy have deemed him sane. I was proud to see him walk free. In exchange for his liberty, the state required only a signature. He talked about wanting to walk in a park, how he longed to feel fresh air on his face. And then he took my father's fountain pen and killed my secretary. As he was subdued, he screamed out, pleading for forgiveness, for pity. But I had none. I watched as guards beat him to a stain on the floor.
Alright, so this turns out to be another gameplay heavy, backstory-filled episode as opposed to the main plot when it comes to, you know, in contrast with the last video. But I like that very much. Okay, so in the main hall of the Arkham Mansion, we have a bunch of Joker's henchmen. And as you can tell with all the papers comically flying around, you know, just like out of a comic book, I guess that's where that expression comes from. They're all searching for Dr. Young's papers, and that's why she's here, that's why Joker sent his men here. And again, if you're not paying attention to the story as much as you could be, because this game is very animated and very fun to just play for the gameplay, you could miss out on little nuances in the plot like that. But as you saw right there, literally 5 seconds ago, combo batarangs are very useful. They can stop counter enemies, they'll immediately take down 1, 2, or 3 enemies depending on your upgrades. And yeah, very, very useful. If you're playing on the PC like I am, and you're not using a controller because you can't be bothered to plug it in, that's just me being honest, it could be a little bit awkward getting to the Q button because it's right next to, you know, your movement buttons, and it's not really the most natural of keys to press for me while holding most of my left hand on the movement and the shift key, but you know, there's worse things in life, right? Anyhow though, this is one of the rarer sets of Joker teeth you can actually miss. It's hidden behind the grate, and all you have to do is remove it and then destroy the I guess animated jawline. I couldn't think of a cool synonym when it comes to Joker teeth, I'm sorry. Anyhow though, there's an interview tape in the next booth.
Patient interview 1. Patient was referred to me after the incident with Dr. Murphy. He appears to have suffered a breakdown of sorts. I believe it was brought about after the loss of his wife and child. As yet, the patient has been unable to speak. Continued observation shows little mental activity. It's as if the shock of what he saw triggered his mental collapse.
There's someone in here! It's him. We found him. Break down the door!
Note to self, as ever, it is difficult to continue my research under such conditions.
Step away from Dr. Combs! Now! Get down on the ground! We found them. Someone get a medic. Oh, God, what's he done to him?
That said though, we've learned a lot about the Titan Project. We've heard a lot of the backstory of the Scarecrow and the Killer Croc, and we've made some great advances when it comes to actually finding Dr. Young. With all that said, let's find her and rescue her once and for all next time. See you guys
Spring was
then.
a turning point, a new beginning, a glorious realization of my true destiny. My family's killer perished in an unfortunate accident. These animals cannot be cured. Like dogs, they only respond to discipline. And if that fails, then I was afraid that these accidents would have to continue.